to live right now. I'm your host, Waleed Ismail. With me, as always, is the wonderfully handsome Joshua Chuboff.
Oh, thanks, Wally.
Uh, I gotta say, this this week is just madness. And honestly, like we had some technical difficulties last week, so there was no waiver wire report. But the good news is that all of the same guys are on the waiver wire report this week because no one believed in Keaton Mitchell. And you know why they didn't believe in Keaton Mitchell? Because you shouldn't have believed in Keaton Mitchell. I'm still not sure I believe in him, but I'm a little bit more open to him. God, there's some madness going on. Like the Minnesota
You
Vikings
know what I
sent
believe,
Justin
Wally?
Jefferson.
You know what I
What?
believe in Keaton
What do you
Mitchell?
believe?
I believe that
What?
he's younger and has two working knees over Gus Bus and Justice
But
Hill.
he plays for the Baltimore Ravens, who have the most injuries. So how long he has working knees does matter. It is up for debates.
But once you
Uh,
drive the car off the lot, it depreciates in value. I don't know what
yeah,
to tell you.
that's exactly it. No, he's fast and like he does pass the eye test. And here's the thing: Evan's a big Baltimore fan, and he's been all over that. Evan Hoovler, one of the co-founders of Football Absurdity, has been banging that Keaton Mitchell drum, and he does watch a lot of like tape, and he has some crazy takes sometimes, but he's right a lot more often than he's wrong. So that's one thing that kind of has my eye. But I want to talk about the pastronaut, the pocket scientist, Joshua Dobbs. We need more like aero astronaut aerodynamic like engineer aerospace engineer like nicknames for
He's
Joshua
he's
Dobbs
also
because
aerodynamic.
that is hands down the best story in football right now as far as I'm concerned. The Minnesota Vikings, since Justin Jefferson was put on IR, have not lost a game. That includes two games where Kirk Cousins tore his Achilles and they had to bring in Joshua Dobbs off the streets. He doesn't even know his teammates' names. Like that stuff was just that story kicks ass. I hate the Vikings more than I hate any other team, and I kind of just want the Vikings to go on a run because it's like the older I get, hating other football teams is dumb. Like, but it's also fun. Like you should hate teams, and the Vikings have abused the Bears for so long. But really, if I'm honest with myself, it's all self-inflicted. It's
Mm-hmm.
the Bears being doing Bearsy things. Oh my God, that Thursday night game, by the way, was one of the most awful things I've ever had to watch on Thursday. The only thing that makes me really sad is I did not bet that under, and I should have. Like I didn't keep my under streak alive, but I was running low on funds. Uh, so I guess like let's get into quarterbacks, and we're gonna talk about we're gonna hit the. You obviously know what quarterback we're gonna tell you you need to add. Josh Dobbs over the last 4 weeks is the QB3 in fantasy football. In week 10, he had 312 all-purpose yards and 2 touchdowns, and he has one of the softest schedules to go along with one of the strongest supporting casts. Like Justin Jefferson should be back very soon, and he's been killing it. Like T.J. Hawkinson, by the way, like T.J. Hawkinson took a beating in week 10. Like he was already playing with cracked ribs apparently, so like that guy just kept getting hit hard, hit hard, hit hard, and nothing stopped. So
Yeah, that was pretty hard to watch.
yeah, it was not fun. But I mean, God, the Vikings are just killing it right now. Um, they're the hottest team in football. There's no doubt. What are they like on a 5 game win streak right now? 4 game?
Uh huh.
A lot of wins. And I mean, really, you're not going to find a better option on the waiver wire than Joshua Dobbs right now. He's got rushing upside, which helps his floor, and like his schedule's easy. Like if you need quarterback help, I didn't think you'd be able to get a guy this good.
And at
But
some point, he's gonna
like,
get Justin Jefferson back.
yeah, like I think that might happen this week too. And he's already got Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson. Like he's in a good spot.
And Tyson
Oh,
Chandler.
uh,
Ooh.
you can keep Tyson Chandler. The Vikings still don't want to run the football, so I don't know that I care about that. So we're gonna start talking about quarterbacks you can get rid of. Here's the one that I think you might not have thought, Josh. Trevor Lawrence, 95% roster. Lawrence heads into his bye week next week, and he will only score 2.1 fewer fantasy points in Week 11 than he did in Week 10.
Oh
Is
my
how
god.
Jeff Briscoe points it. Yeah. To be fair to Trevor Lawrence, they were playing a 49ers defense that just added Chase Young. I mean, you saw that defensive front. He had no chance that game. Like, he was getting smoked. The San Francisco 49ers sold out to win now. And it's hard not to, like, between them, I think I like them more than I like the Eagles still. Lions are still my dark horse to win the NFC.
Uh-huh.
And the Lions have a real big challenge this week. They are playing a team coming off its 6th win in 2 years. That's right, we're talking about the Chicago Bears. So after they win by 20, because I'm absolutely taking the Lions plus the points. Lions, I don't know if Lions can get a bye. They still have what are their records here? I'm kind of curious. I don't know. Like, the big takeaway here is I'm not quite ready to give up on Trevor Lawrence yet, but at the same time, C.J. Stroud is breathing down his neck. Houston Texans only one game out of first, and like C.J. Stroud is maybe that, like, he's one of the hottest quarterbacks going right now.
He's so hot right now.
So hot right now. At AFC North, with Baltimore losing, you have 2 6-3 teams in Baltimore at 7-3, with the Bengals at 5-4. You have 4 teams with winning records. The Pittsburgh Steelers should not have a winning record if you watch them. They're the only team with a winning record in football with a negative point differential. Like, they are terrible, and it is absolutely, like. But also, I love chaos. Like, the Vikings last year, constantly winning games that they shouldn't, and also with the negative point differential was kind of funny. So I'm okay with that. Yeah, Lions only 7-2. So yeah, you know what? I don't think San Francisco can catch up to the Eagles, because the Eagles only they're 8-1. They would need to make up 2 wins, and I don't know if they can do that to get that, like, number one, like, that bye. So I think the bye is between the Lions. Yeah, between the Lions and the Eagles. And then you have the AFC South with no team in the AFC. I'm sorry, the NFC South. There's no team in the NFC South with a winning record.
That sounds impossible.
The Saints lead the division at 5-5.
Oof.
Yeah. You got Bucks at 4-5. The Falcons at 4-6. I don't know. I'm not liking my Falcons bet as much to win the NFC South. I thought they would win by virtue of everyone just being so awful, but it turns out, yeah, everyone is awful.
When Arthur Smith doesn't make his skill players,
Yeah, you notice how, like, Bijan actually had a good game, but they still wouldn't give him the ball.
Yeah.
Like, because I want to see what was his usage this week. That's the real stat for Bijan, because I have a feeling it was not very good.
Arthur Smith buys new cars for destruction rallies.
Oh, I disagree. Okay, Bijan had 22 carries and 2 targets.
Yeah, Arthur Smith buys new cars for destruction rallies, and then, like, refuses to take them out of the garage. Like,
he's the guy who gets a Ferrari and then uses it to commute into the inner city.
Right. He's like, you know what? I'm going to take the bus.
The other quarterback, but Trevor Lawrence has been bad. Here, let's pull up some of Trevor Lawrence's stats over the last few weeks. So last week he had 185 passing yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and 5 sacks. The week before that, he had 292 passing yards, 1 touchdown and 1 interception with 3 sacks. He also had a fumble against the 49ers. Week before that, 204, 1 touchdown. He's only had 2 games this season where he scored 2 touchdowns. Like, passing anyway. Oh, he's got no rushing touchdowns either.
Nope.
That's Trevor Lawrence. Oh, my God. So my guess that he'd be an MVP candidate turned out to be real dumb and bad.
Yeah.
Another guy who's already also dumb and bad, Derek Carr, man. Did you notice how the minute Derek Carr got hurt and they put in Jameis Winston, Chris Olave just came to life?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not... Derek Carr is just been bad all season. He's got a concussion, a shoulder injury. He's QB 24 in fantasy points per game.
Hey,
and
but
there's nothing he's...
But he got his bag, Waleed. I salute that.
Yeah, but he had his bag. He's made plenty of money. The thing that's crazy is he's fourth. He's got the 4th most air yards, and he used to be like accurate downfield, but for some reason he just isn't doing it. So you can drop either of these guys for Joshua Dobbs and feel good. If Kyler Murray is still somehow on your waiver wire, get him too. Sam Howell, I mentioned a couple weeks ago, guy you can like absolutely get. Sam Howell is still a top 10 fantasy quarterback. Like, it makes it. Well, I would say it makes no sense, but he also has like the most dropbacks of any quarterback in football, so it makes a little bit of sense. So talking about running backs, we talked about Keaton Mitchell, and last week I talked about it. The problem with Keaton Mitchell is like 2 weeks ago he had 13 snaps. Like, he's on the field for 22% of the team snaps. That isn't like viable for long-term, consistent fantasy football production. The problem is that when Keaton Mitchell has the ball in his hands, he makes explosive plays. Like week 10, 66 all-purpose yards and 1 touchdown. And Keaton Mitchell did that. What did he do that in? Should have pulled this up while I was talking. He did that on 5 touches. 5 opportunities, 2 targets, 3 carries, 66 fucking yards.
Yep.
Are you kidding me? Like, there's no denying when he has the ball in his hands, he'll just break one off for a huge gain.
Mayhaps they should get him the ball more.
And that's kind of what I'm thinking is something that could happen. So now I'm kind of leaning towards, you know what? Running backs are hard to come by. Grab him, hope that he has, like, his usage increases, and he could be a guy who wins you your league once the fantasy playoffs comes around. So I'm all about Keaton Mitchell. Devin Singletary is another guy who had a monster game. In Week 10, Devin Singletary had 30 carries for 150 yards, averaging 5 yards a carry. But I think it's worth noting the Bengals, on average, gave up 4.5 yards per rush attempt. Teams don't run against them a lot, but when they do, they are successful. So Devin Singletary was the RB3 in Week 10, and I think this week is more sign that Singletary had a good matchup than anything. Than like about him being good. It's worth noting too that Dameon Pierce, like once he's healthy, will be the lead back. I don't know that if you get Devin Singletary once Dameon Pierce's ankle's hurt, I don't know that Singletary is going to be worth anything. I think Devin Singletary personally is a band-aid. If you need help immediately, you have to do what you have to do. But we don't even know if Pierce is going to be back this week. So you kind of have to wait. And I don't know that I would burn a waiver a guy who's just a guy and might not even get carries. Mm-hmm. Especially in a team that basically, that team is like, I only want CJ Stroud's passing option. Because that's where that team like thrives. Now, Josh mentioned this guy, Ty Chandler, as a weapon. Ty Chandler is only a weapon because Alexander Madison was out with a concussion. And Ty Chandler had 15 carries for 45 yards and a touchdown. That's 3 yards a carry. That sucks. The Vikings don't run the ball well. They don't run the ball often. You can take running backs. If Ty Chandler didn't fall into the end zone, we wouldn't be talking about him. But when Alexander Madison comes back, Chandler's likely going to be fantasy irrelevant. So I'm not sure how interested I'm in. Speaking of running backs you can cut, Jeff Crisco in the waiver wire cut list talks about Alexander Madison being on 83% of rosters. He finished Week 10 with 8 carries for 27 yards and 1 catch for 6 yards, finishing with 4.3 fantasy points, which is what Ty Chandler would have gotten, but maybe even less. He would have gotten just about that too if he hadn't fallen in the end zone. This marks the third time in 4 games that Madison hasn't crossed the 7 PPR point threshold.
Dang.
It was a tough matchup against the Saints. But if you want to hold on to a primo Denver running back, it's fine. But if you need someone to cut, Alexander Madison, he's not really worth it. Another guy, Josh, this is going to break your heart. 70% rostered Zach Moss.
Get him out of there. Get him out.
He had 1 carry. The dream is dead.
No, the dream lived way longer than it was supposed to.
So I want to point out, Chuba Hubbard and Miles Sanders are both guys that Jeff is pointing out. He said they combined for 8.9 PPR points going into Thursday. I think it's worth noting that the Bears, as bad as they are, have the 4th best run defense in football. And that being a Thursday night game, I'm not sure that I'm willing to just sell out those guys. I think Miles Sanders was coming back from injury, and with this long week, he could be fantasy relevant depending on who he's playing. Who are the Carolina Panthers playing? Because he's the guy who should get some usage. And what are they? Rest of the schedule. Hold on. They are playing the Dallas Cowboys next week. And then the Tennessee Titans. Yeah, maybe they're not going to be good. Oh, that's awful. No, thank you. No, that's not that. I want nothing to do with that. Now, this week, the waiver wire, the thing that's got my eye is going to be the wide receivers. We're going to start off with the guy who can cut. I got to say it, man. And this is a guy I thought was going to have a real good year. I had money on him having a 1,000-yard season, or at least hitting his over and attempted, or hitting like 900 yards. And Christian Watson has been terrible.
Wow.
I want to point out here, he's only played in 6 games, and he's only cracked 40 yards once. He has 1 touchdown in 6 games. Christian Watson's not very good. And part of the problem is, what the hell is his name?
You mean the Packers aren't very good at drafting wide receivers?
I mean, they were for a while. Jordy Nelson, Donald Driver, like Devontae Adams, they used to draft good receivers.
You know what I'm hearing? Waleed?
And I'll tell you what, Romeo Dobbs is the guy that you actually want.
You know what I'm hearing, Waleed? A lot of old people's names. That's what I'm hearing.
You are, and it's a different GM drafting these guys, so I think that is worth noting. But, no. Like, Jordan Love is awful. He is the punishment for them getting 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks in a row. It's actually fun listening to Packers fans sound like Bears fans.
Waleed, I have an in-depth what do you call it? Waiver wire question for you.
Okay.
Or a sit-start question.
Sure.
So my running backs in the Comics League, which is a full PPR league, are Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Taylor, Zach Moss, Tajay Spears, and Zach Charbonnet. Now, do I go Spears or Charbonnet?
Charbonnet.
Yeah.
But I'm actually.
That's what I.
Are you talking? These are the guys that. Are you talking about grabbing them on a waiver wire? Did you say, or are you talking about starting them?
I'm talking about putting them in a flex spot. Well, not a flex spot, but I need a second running back.
Yeah, bye weeks suck.
Well, sure, but I mean this team is stacked, so it'll be.
So I will say this: Tajay Spears against the Bucks, he had 18 rushing yards, and he had 40. So he had a total of.
Tajay Spears against Jacksonville this week.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Tajay Spears against Jacksonville. Jacksonville's run defense is actually really good. They broke Christian McCaffrey's streak. Charbonnet's been kind of fun. Like their yardage total's been like similar.
I mean they both got 10 points last week. So I mean like that's a decent flex. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I lean towards who's Charbonnet playing?
Let's see. Who is Sharp playing?
Is he playing the Cardinals? I feel like they might be. No,
Let me see.
they've already played the Cardinals.
Let me see.
Oh, they're playing the Rams.
Yeah.
I don't hate it.
Oh man, if Kyron Williams comes off of IR this week,
That would be so
can
nice.
he come off of IR this week?
I don't think he can.
Week? Or is this his third week?
I don't know. Let's Google the Kyron Williams injury status. Let's see. They expect he might be back by week 12, is what they're saying.
Ah.
So he won't be back this week. But,
Okay.
oh my God, Kyron coming back will make such a big difference. David Montgomery just came back, and it was like, oh, all my teams suddenly feel better.
Yeah.
But the real problem was that I also have, I'm starting to get nervous because the guy I really have that I had last night was a man by the name of Josh Allen.
And I had Stephon Diggs that was supposed to get Dave 10 points and could not muster it.
Josh Allen had 3 turnovers, and he had 177 passing.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Out of all the big name quarterbacks, he has scared me the most. Just watching him play.
Yeah.
Like, he does not look like the other quarterbacks.
He doesn't look. Well, he's a different animal. He's not supposed to look like them. It's the same reason like Justin Fields. Like you don't try to make Josh Allen like a timing rhythm quarterback. That's not his game.
Right.
But at the same time, he just he doesn't look right. And it's not him. It's the offense. Like when you check out that link, if you guys haven't had a chance to check out, Brett Coleman did a breakdown of the Bills' offense, and it was on display last night. All the problems he's talking about. They are the worst running team in football. Well, they're not the worst running team, but their running game is broken, which screws up. It just skews what they do. Like they're one of the best, like most efficient passing offenses, technically if you use EPA as a metric, while not actually scoring points. It's maddening.
What I don't understand is they've had plenty of chances to fix that offense.
Yeah, but you can't fix losing Brian Daboll. And it's amazing what losing an offensive coordinator can do. Honestly, I think you can see it with the Eagles, too. Jalen Hurts in that offense doesn't look nearly as good as it did last year. It's not as efficient. At the same time, it's still doing pretty well. It hasn't fallen off the path terribly. But
I honestly think that that's just how Jalen Hurts is playing this year.
Yeah.
I think like developing the tush push has like made him gun shy when it comes to other style runs that might destroy him.
I think he realizes what most quarterbacks realize is if you want a long career, you can't be taking big hits. So running is like it's counterproductive. And frankly, you got Devonta Smith, AJ Brown. Well, I don't think you have Dallas Goedert right now, but you will. Like you got enough skill possession weapons that slinging it's fine, and using your legs as a secondary thing helps.
Right.
Let's talk about some wide receivers. Remember how I was saying I don't want Devin Singletary, but I want wide receivers? Well, last week, if you read the waiver wire article, I told you, like, Tank Dell had gotten cut by a lot of people. He was just a little bit above 50% roster. And if you picked him up, like I told you, you were a very, very happy person. But you know who you can pick up that could also make you happy? Noah Brown. Noah Brown is a dog. That guy, that catch to put him in field goal range, where he just got within field goal range, and then he just dragged defenders another 10 yards because why not? That was just such a good clutch run. And he runs strong, he runs hard. And in week 10, he had 7 catches for 172 yards. Over his last 2 games, Noah Brown has 14 targets, 13 catches, and 325 yards. CJ Stroud, the nice thing about him it was kind of interesting. We were questioning the wide receivers they were putting in place there. They drafted Tank Dell, they had Nico Collins, they signed Noah Brown, and we're like, what is this offense with Dalton and then Dalton Schultz? We're like, there's no real playmakers here, but they all have.
Guys,
They're all plus guys who are just good football players.
someone
And
dropped Elijah Moore on my waiver wire, but my team's too good. I can't add him.
I mean, Elijah Moore sucks. There's a reason he was drafted. Elijah Moore had a touchdown, but I don't. He's a tramp. You don't want him. But Noah Brown, you do want. Noah Brown, 100% my number one waiver wire ad. As long as C.J. Stroud keeps being C.J. Stroud, and C.J. Stroud is the front runner for Offensive Rookie of the Year. I want his receiving shares. Guy I mentioned last week, Quentin Johnson. Quentin Johnson, I've been telling you for a couple of weeks, is a guy worth stashing. Over the last 4 weeks, Johnson is second in routes run, only to Keenan Allen on the Chargers. Week 10, Johnson had 4 targets, 4 catches, 34 yards, and a touchdown. They're not exciting numbers, but he's getting more looks, and he keeps getting more looks. So, basically, he's the number 2 receiver on the 8th best scoring offense in football.
Can I also point out, Waleed? Sure. Rondell Moore got 8 targets this weekend. He's rostered in 33% of leagues. With Kyler Murray back, that might be something to take a shot on.
Rondell Moore is a guy, I didn't put him in my waiver wire report, but he is a guy I like, and he's been quietly productive this year. But he's a guy who's been so inconsistent because of like that offensive play. Like, here's the thing is, yeah, he had like 5 catches, 43 yards, but he's still just a slot guy. I think Michael Wilson is a guy who will probably have more long-term value, even though Michael Wilson did not have as good a game. Neither did Marquise Brown. The guy, though, that you really want that I'll be talking about is Trey McBride. In fact, I'll just skip ahead to that part of the tight end position. Trey McBride in Week 10, 9 targets, 8 catches, 131 yards. The thing I like about Trey McBride, I will almost always tell you, don't burn a waiver wire. Don't burn your waiver priority on a tight end, because burning your waiver priority, like, tight ends are so inconsistent and bad overall, and I don't usually really worry about it, but I kind of haven't been paying attention to Trey McBride.
I don't know, Waleed. This year, there have been tight ends that have kind of been blowing up that assertion of tight ends being bad. Like, I'm just looking on my tight end waiver wire. Like, Kate Otton's on my waiver wire, and a week ago he scored somebody 23 points, and before that 8 points and 9 points. Like, that sounds pretty good from a tight end. Like,
it is, but like, you got to also remember the other games where he had like 4 catches for 27 yards, 1 catch for 15 yards. Kate Otton's been inconsistent. That's the problem sometimes with grabbing young tight ends. He is a young tight end who is emerging. He's in his 3rd season. He's not like, all right. Oh, I'm sorry. He's in his 2nd season.
Yeah.
That makes me want to give him more leeway. But I look at Kate Otton and I worry that he's like Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and Rachaad White are all ahead of him in the passing game. And I'm not looking for guys who are 4th options. I think Trey McBride has a legitimate shot at being the number 2 receiving option in this offense. Marquise Brown is clearly the guy. Michael Wilson has shown flashes, but he is still a rookie. Trey McBride is the guy they drafted in the 2nd round last year. Different team. He was almost everyone's consensus number 1 tight end in Dynasty last year. So that's one of the reasons why there's high draft capital invested in him. He's got the athletic traits, and now he's got Kyler Murray. And in 2 of his last 3 weeks, he's been a top 3 fantasy tight end. That's why I'm like, he might not be an anomaly, and I think it's worth. It could be worth investing in him. Let's see, who else do we got here? So we talked about Quentin Johnson. I'm going to throw out Demario Douglas again. Generally, like I said, like Quentin Johnson, I like him because he's got Justin Herbert, and he's the number 2 receiving option in that offense. So there's some serious upside there. On the flip side, Demario Douglas is on an offense I want 0 parts of. I hate the New England Patriots. But what I will say about Demario Douglas is since Kendrick Bourne has been put on season-ending injured reserve, he leads the Patriots in routes run, targets per route run, and yards per route run. Basically, he's a floor play at wide receiver. If you need a guy like who can just get you some points and not screw, so you don't get a goose egg in the spot, he's a guy I pick up. If you need any kind of ceiling, I'm not taking anyone on the Patriots. But Demario Douglas, he's a rookie. He's shown like he could potentially be a good player if he could get out of New England. Just free Jacoby Myers kind of feeling on that. Let's see. We already talked about Christian Watson. So those are the wide receivers that stood out to me. I mean, like, there's a couple of guys, too, that aren't in my waiver wire article. Jaden Reed, but, like, that's another one where he's made big plays, but I don't trust Jordan Love. But he also has a soft schedule. There's also, like, mouths to feed, but Jordan Love's inaccurate, so it's just, I don't know. I don't want shares of the Packers offense. I think Brandon Cooks is the guy who's kind of interesting and I didn't talk about. But at the same time, I look at Brandon Cooks and I think, do I trust Mike McCarthy to be good? And like Brandon Cooks in week 10 targets, 9 catches, 173 yards. Like, he absolutely blew up. But he was also playing the Giants. If you look at it too, the week before he had 1 catch for 7 yards. He had 3 catches for 49 yards and a touchdown. He has had touchdowns in 3 of his last 4 games. But his targets, like, he's only had more than 4 targets twice this season. That's not going to really get you viable like fantasy production. And when you add to that Mike McCarthy wants to run the football, which, although that begs the question, why is Tony Pollard not better? I mean, Mike McCarthy, I don't trust Mike McCarthy offenses. The only part of that Dallas Cowboys offense I have any interest in is CeeDee Lamb. And if you either have him or you don't. So that's kind of where I'm at with wide receivers. I think the guys I mentioned are the guys who, like, Demario Douglas is a solid floor play. Quentin Johnson, Noah Brown are nice, like, ceiling plays. Noah Brown is probably a solid floor and ceiling combination. So those are the guys that I'm really looking at. I will mention one more tight end on the cut list, then one more tight end you could potentially add. Although if Trey McBride is on your waiver wire, that's the guy. Ty Chandler, Z's got Ty Chandler as the Rockets going up. I don't buy it. The Vikings still pass it one of the highest rates in football. They don't want to use the running back. The only reason Ty Chandler, I mean, that's cool. I think the risk is he had like I said before, 15 catches, he had 15 carries for 45 yards. He was averaging 3 yards a carry. If he doesn't get into the end zone, he gets 4.5 fantasy points, and we're not talking about him this week. The Vikings want to throw the football. Like, that's what Kevin O'Connell does. They throw a top 5 rates. I don't need a running back. I mean, Alexander Madison sucks, so he could take Alexander Madison's role, but at the same time, I mean, I just want the receiving shares in Minnesota. Anything else, I feel, is just I mean, beggars can't be choosers. I get it if you want to take a shot at Ty Chandler. He was on my report, but at the same time, he's not a guy I feel great about. I'd much rather have, like, Keaton Mitchell, who is on a much better, like, offense. And, frankly, he looks like he every time he touches the ball, even though his usage sucks, he just explodes for 30 yards. So, tight ends you can cut here. I mean, this is obvious, too. Apparently, Darren Waller still rostered on 67% of leagues, even though he's on IR. So I'm going to say the guy who's on injured reserve, you don't need to keep on your roster anymore. And even if he comes back, Daniel Jones isn't coming back. And I think we've seen that Tommy DeVito is not it. He is not him. He is the opposite of him. Let's see. So here's another thing. This is a guy, I don't want you... Singletary had one good game, and he only had it because, like I said before, Bengals giving up 4.5 yards per rush attempt. So that's kind of in line with what he did. Singletary, he's a Band-Aid. Once Dameon Pierce comes back, he's just going to be in a timeshare on a team that wants to throw the football. I want running backs on teams that are running the football. And They really aren't. So Pat Fryermuth is the guy, though. Last guy I kind of want to talk about. He is very interesting. And the reason he is interesting is because he's about to come off waivers, off of the injured reserve list. And he has shown that he can be a fantasy viable tight end. The problem is he plays on the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is a dumb, bad opposites. I think if once waivers clear, I keep an eye out. If Pat Fryermuth is getting activated and I'm desperate for tight end help, and I can't get Trey McBride, I want Fryermuth. But really, I want Trey McBride more than I want him. Fryermuth is the guy you can plug in. He's not worth a waiver, but he's worth keeping an eye on because he has the potential to be a good floor play who could fall into the end zone. But man, the Steelers suck so badly. They are the worst 6-3 team I have ever seen. And I think that covers the waiver wire. Josh, you have any thoughts you want to add?
No.
No.
Just good luck, guys. Remember, you're buying wins at this point.
Yeah.
You're escaping the bye weeks. You know, Jonathan Taylor's on bye. I'm putting in either Charbonnet or Spears. It's just that time of the season.
Good God.
Hold
on.
on.
I just need Kyren Williams back. Kyren Williams was carrying my teams.
Oh. I mean, he's giving me depth. He's giving me late season depth at running back, hopefully. So
I was a zero RB guy, so I invested in all of the Kyren Williams shares week 1. He was the running back I thought was the most likely to consistently produce, and I was right. And it kind of doesn't matter right now because like losing all of my running backs, and then I'm gonna squeak into some playoffs, but I should make most of my playoffs. But Josh Allen, oh good God, check out if you haven't seen Brett Coleman's breakdown of the Bills running game, check it out. It's fantastic. And thank you guys very much for watching. I've been Waleed Ismail. With me as always, Josh Chuboff.